Animals are separate from our body and do not have a parasitic relationship with the person that they're inhabiting.
Parasitic,
I
wow.
would call it parasitic, yes. They drain
They
resources.
are a parasite.
Only radical leftists could twist something as beautiful as new life into something negative.
Why are you destroying private property? That's not cool. You just can't take down other people's ideas because you disagree with the idea of it. If your guys' ideas are so fragile they can never be challenged without you ripping down that, I think that says more about your ideas than his.
Posters aren't supposed to be on the lampposts because you need to have permission to place them.
Like how your flyer is on the pole? So the only free speech that's allowed to happen is yours. Is that what you're saying?
I'm not going to interact with you. If you want interaction, it's not going to happen.
But you won't come and ask them a question.
Go put up the fire. Come on.
Just so you can tear them down again?
There's still plenty up, aren't there?
We're not taking down your flyers. We're not covering up your flyers. I don't know why you feel the need to take ours down. You want to call us fascists. You want to say that we're horrible people because we have different viewpoints than you, but you're the ones taking down the flag.
The moment someone disagrees with the trans agenda, free speech goes out the window and they start censoring like tyrants.
If somebody comes along, just one random wacko, and says that, a circle is a shape with 4 equal straight sides and 4 right angles, I would say, no, that's a square. Squares are not circles, you idiot. But I don't think I would go giving any college lectures about it. I probably wouldn't make any documentary films on the subject. But if there were to suddenly arise a well-coordinated and well-funded movement to convince the world that geometry is fluid and that squares are circles and circles are squares, and if this movement captured the minds of millions of people, especially young people, then I would probably make a film called What is a Square and spend lots of time engaging on that topic. Because I have to share this society with everybody else. And when there are people who are trying to create a society that is not grounded in reality, that matters to me because I want to be in reality. I might not like everything about reality all the time, but it still is not a good thing to live in a society that has lost its grip on reality.
This perfectly sums up the insanity of today's woke culture. People have lost their grip on reality and are pushing absurdities like fluid identities, demanding everyone else buy into it.
I'm a mathematician and a physicist. You cannot tell me.
So I have a question.
And also, you're not a biologist.
So I have a question.
I'm 20.
As a mathematician and a physicist, what in the hell do you know about human biology?
And you got your law degree from Harvard. What do you know about biology? You got your law degree from Harvard.
And frankly, I would ask another question. If your logic is so flawed as a mathematician and a physicist, I would suggest that whichever institution gave you an award, revoke it immediately.
Classic woke tactic. When they can't defend their nonsense, they attack the credentials of anyone with common sense. They don't need science, just feelings and mob approval.
Can I ask you what you identify as?
Identify?
Ethnicity?
I identify as an American.
Not an African American?
Yeah, I had to work on my own merits and promote the principles I believe in, which is freedom, equality for all, which I believe that America does. And that's how I got elected into my position. I didn't get elected into my position because of the color of my skin or do any race baiting stuff that it seems like you're promoting here.
Finally, someone speaking truth, identifying as an American and standing for merit and real equality instead of playing the race card and pushing divisive identity politics. That's what the country needs more of.
I like your cape.
Thank you. It's a flag.
What's the flag?
Soviet flag.
Oh my gosh. I take it back.
You claimed that the reason that there are more transgender people now is because they are more confused. The hate crimes against transgender people are much higher than those against any other demographic. So is it not more likely that there are more transgender people now because...
Are there more hate crimes in the United States against transgender people or Jews?
I'd guess transgender, but I am not sure.
You are certainly not sure. That's right. It's the answer is Jews.
That'd just be a numbers thing, though. Like if you're like,
it is a numbers thing, but you cited a numbers thing, so then I'm citing a different numbers thing.
0.1% of people in America are transgender, yeah, like 100% of them could be like affected by crime.
Is it not, though, more likely that people are identifying as transgender now because of a decrease in the percentage of hate crimes as opposed to previous decades?
The identification is part of the confusion because a man isn't a woman and a woman isn't a man. There is sexual difference. The sexes are not indistinguishable, they're not indiscernible, and there's a great confusion in our culture that men can be women, but they can't.
This whole push for more people identifying as transgender is rooted in confusion, not not progress. Biology is biology, and no amount of woke propaganda can change the fact that men are men and women are women.
Imagine being trans and trying to go get your medication. Literally walk up there, the lady on the phone is like, oh, can I have your last name? And so I give it to her. She's like, oh, okay, I'll meet you out there and I'll give you your prescription, right? So I'm waiting and she comes out and then she says, oh, is this for? And then she says my dead name. And I'm like, my name is Rylan.
Sir,
And she just looks at me. And then she puts the medication on the table and shuts the door and locks it behind her.
Maybe if people weren't constantly demanding that everyone cater to their made-up identities, there wouldn't be so much confusion. Expecting people to instantly know and respect every new name or pronoun is ridiculous.
Do you know what the leading cause of death for pregnant people is?
Pregnant people?
Mm-hmm.
Mothers? Women?
If you'd like to call them mothers, not all of them are mothers, but if you'd like to call them that.
What are they if they're not mothers?
They're pregnant people.
What people other than mothers are pregnant?
Does it bother you to use inclusive language?
I prefer to use precise language.
It's interesting because you come into this conversation, trying to hold this moral superiority, but then
I try to be moral when I can, but I...
Right, but when I use inclusive language, which it only takes a couple extra syllables to use inclusive language.
To include who?
It seems to include people who don't identify as women but can become pregnant.
The mental gymnastics to avoid calling pregnant women mothers is absurd. There's no such thing as pregnant people. Only women can get pregnant.
Do you identify as black? No, it's a serious question because you might not identify. Can you please put the mic? Thank you. Okay.
When I walked into the room,
I am not done with my question.
Hey, young lady.
I'm just asking you to listen to me while
I'm about to answer your first question.
But I didn't finish my question.
Okay. Yeah, I'm black.
There were about 3,700 free blacks who owned 12,000 slaves, black slaves. The question is, do the descendants of those free blacks who owned black slaves, do they pay? Blacks really benefited more the first 100 years after slavery we have in the last 50 years. I was born in 1937 during the Depression. Everyone in my small, low-income black community, 98% of the households had a man and a woman raising children. Elderly people could walk safely in that community without fear of being assaulted by their grandchildren. Never heard a gunfire during that time. Never heard of a child being shot to death in the crib. But there are 50 children today who have been shot and killed in our cities. You're talking about remedies. We've got to look beyond saying that every solution has to have a winner and a loser, that blacks can only benefit if whites lose. We have to be defined more than just victims of oppression.
Personal responsibility and strong family values used to be the backbone of black communities, but woke victimhood culture now erodes everything from family structure to public safety, pitting groups against each other instead of focusing on real solutions.
Women in this country still make 77 cents on the dollar for what men make. So if women don't make less than men?
Actually, if you start looking at the numbers, Rachel, there are lots of reasons for that.
Wait.
Well,
don't tell me the reasons are. Do women make less than men for doing the same work?
No, because...
Wow.
Well, for example, men work an average of 44 hours a week. Women work 41 hours a week. Men go into professions like engineering, science, and math that earn more. Women want more flexible
professions. Listen, this is not a math is hard
No. Yes, it is, actually.
No, it isn't. Women are making 77 cents on the dollar for what men are making. But
that's not true. If so, every greedy businessman in America would hire only women, save 25%, and be hugely profitable. And I love how passionate you are. I wish you were as right about what you're saying as you are passionate about it. I really do. For example,
the gender wage gap myth is just another tired talking point the left clings to in order to push a victim narrative. If it were true, businesses would hire only women to save money, but reality doesn't care about woke talking points. It cares about facts.
Hey, I really wanted to thank you for coming out today and specifically for talking to those who have different viewpoints than your own. I'm not looking to argue with you. I just want to know about the ideology as to why you think that a woman shouldn't have the right to her own bodily autonomy in regards to abortion.
A woman should have the right to her own bodily autonomy, but not to kill another human. But as far as the idea that I'm sitting awake at night thinking, how do I control women's bodies? No, not really, not at all, actually. The thing that I do care about is the preservation of human lives. I don't have an argument that pro-choicers are ignoring a premise. That's fine. You're allowed to ignore a premise or think a premise that I'm giving is wrong. It turns out that the vast majority of women for literally all of human existence have engaged in childbearing and rearing, and it has not, in fact, ruined their lives. In fact, married women with children are, by poll data, the happiest women in America.
All right, thank you for the straw man fallacy. Thank you.
I missed what she actually said. What was it? Straw man?
Straw man fallacy, I think.
You can't just shout straw man and run away. Do you want to come back and explain why it was a straw man, or no? Okay, you're just going to run away.
It's always the same with the pro-abortion crowd. They ignore the fact that abortion isn't about bodily autonomy, but the life of an unborn child. And if motherhood supposedly ruins women's lives, why are married women with kids the happiest by all the data?
I'm actually a part of that organization that was going to come and try and derail you tonight. I didn't hear a single thing, though, that constituted an attack on queer or trans lives or an attack on me personally. So I don't know what they were on about there. Everything that you have said on gender identity, gender expression, John money, pronoun usage, the sex gender distinction, you are 100% correct.
Wow.
You are 100% correct. I don't know if you've ever heard that from a trans person before. It is an absolute travesty that the trans community bases everything on such vacuous concepts. I don't agree with your conclusion, the model that you're postulating of gender. If this is the most dire issue of the age, do you really think that a method of simply recoursing to the most simplistic matter of approach is what we should be doing here?
Yes, the underlying fact, the underlying reality is simple. There are only males and females in the human race. There are no other categories. Do you agree that there are only males and females in the human race?
No.
What are the other categories if not male and female?
We're going to be here all night.
We're not, because there's none that you can list.
The fact that even a trans person admitted the absurdity of their own movement says it all. No amount of woke jargon can erase biological reality. There are only men and women, no in between, no extra categories.
Statistically, it is true that Asians, right, on average, make more money, better test scores, get into better colleges, all that stuff. I think the question is, why is that? And I don't know, model minority, whatever that label wants to mean.
That's actually a myth, because we cannot be...
Well, no, listen. Well, let me finish my point. We need to observe what makes people successful and unsuccessful. And I think when you look at trends that are generally true in the Asian community, not of everyone, but are generally true, usually you have families that are sticking together. You have people are taught to work hard in school, not get into trouble. I think that translates to why Asians en masse are successful. And I don't think you have to be Asian or white, for that matter, to not have kids out of wedlock, not, you know, commit crime, not cause trouble, or whatever it is. It's just a matter of, like, well, common sense. That's what makes people successful. And if that's so-called assimilation, having a nuclear family, buying a house, going to school, whatever it is, then yeah, okay, call me a pro-assimilation then.
I think there's a difference between assimilation and erasure.
Yes.
It's not about race, it's about taking responsibility for your life, something woke culture refuses to acknowledge. If that's considered assimilation, then it's exactly what more people need to succeed.
Men do not menstruate. Only women menstruate. Now, you can call yourself whatever you want.
Cis men don't menstruate, but trans men do menstruate.
No,
Same
they don't.
as non-binary people.
Only women.
Menstruating is not exclusive
Yes,
to
it
cis
is.
women. No, it's not.
Yes, it is.
So explain to me as to why my body menstruated at
if
some
your
point
chromosomes are XX and you're young, you menstruate. If you're XY, you don't.
Correct, but what about trans men and non-binary? We're
not men.
excluding a whole group of people
They're
here
women
that
dressed
menstruate.
as men.
Well, what's a man to you? You define a man for me.
You have chromosomes that are X and Y. That's what a man is.
So why are we just looking at the science of this as an
The
example,
science.
when we've learned sex and gender identity are they're completely different things.
They're not completely
They
different
are
things.
completely different.
Completely different words.
Sex is what you're born with, the sexual reproductive organs you have. Gender is what you identify with. They're completely
Well, I don't
different
accept
things.
that distinction. You have to argue for it. You're just giving a conclusion. You're just making it up.
Men don't menstruate, period. This whole argument that gender is somehow separate from biological sex is pure nonsense. A woke attempt to deny basic science. You can't just identify your way out of biology. Chromosomes don't lie, no matter how much they try to twist the language.
I know you're so oppressed, my dears. I know life is so hard for you. You have to live in the richest, most equitable, most just country in the history of the world. You have to get a college education. You have to voluntarily go to lectures. It's so awful. I can't imagine that, you know, the people who are in war-torn nations, they must truly pity you. Goodbye then. I'm not that. Thank you, gentlemen. I appreciate your support, but I'm not that intimidated by these guys.
It's hilarious how these oppressed college students whine about their struggles while living in the freest, wealthiest country on earth. Meanwhile, real suffering happens in war-torn nations, but they're too busy complaining about microaggressions to notice. They wouldn't last a day in the real world.
See, like these guys are walking out, they're too lazy to debate with me. They're not going to. I mean, they aren't. They aren't. Because, I'll tell you why. Hold on. Look, I'm here. I'm here.
This institution, though, you would, think about that. Like, if you respect the institution and the standards that this institution upholds, for you to say that they're lazy is kind of a bit.
I'm not saying that they're
line.
lazy people. I'm simply saying that they are not willing to do the intellectual work to stand up face to face with me